Hi everyone, welcome to our Monday live stream, and there goes Mac. Bye-bye, Mac. Hey Mac, come here. Come say hello to everybody, come here. Mac is joining in today. Have a seat, Mac. Oh, good, here we go. He's gonna say hi. Mac, say hi to everybody. Well, anyway, you guys will probably see him on the live stream. Throughout the live stream, kind of coming and going. He likes to kind of search for the lizards, snap at the flies, but I've got some plants here I don't want him walking over, so we'll see if we can keep him away from that. But welcome to our Monday live stream. It is actually feeling like fall a little bit here today. I think it's around 70 degrees, which by far is the coolest day we've had in quite some time. And I know that some of you are already dealing with snow. I know Cliff's on here, and he had snow last week. Mac's like telling me to scooch over here. He posted a couple photos on his Instagram, and I was floored. It's so hard to imagine snow here in California when the weather's been so hot in the 80s, close to the 90s last week. So welcome, guys. Today we're talking about garden replanting after the windstorm we had last week. And I'm trying to focus on 4 different things throughout that process. So I'll be sharing that with you today. And I also want to hear from some of you that might have dealt with some of the winds and the fires last week here in Southern California. I know Brandon's on here, and he mentioned that his garden was sustained also a lot of damage from the wind. So I'm really sorry that that has happened. But the way I'm looking at it, it gives me a chance to replant and grow some things that I haven't been able to grow for a while. So if you guys saw Mac, don't step on my plants here. Sit down, Mac. If you guys, Mac, come back here. Come here, buddy. Mac, come here. There we go. Okay, trying to get away from the little seedlings I want to show you in just a second. But if you guys saw my video we posted yesterday, you saw how the garden sustained a lot of damage, and I was feeling pretty upbeat when we filmed the video. And yesterday, when Jerry and I were out here pulling things out, I have to admit, I was pretty sad. I was pulling out the zucchini plant right here behind me, which was absolutely gorgeous. Some tomatoes, a lot of the red profusion zinnias. I was feeling pretty sad, feeling pretty overwhelmed. I had my moment of a few tears, I have to admit. But you know what? Then I got excited about having a new plan. So here we are today talking about it. And I'm actually gonna upload a video as soon as the live stream is finished, just kind of sharing a few of my thoughts after our garden cleanup. So before we do that though, let me see who's here today. And I know a lot of people are in the chat early, so I really appreciate that. It's really fun to see people chatting away and checking up on how our gardens are doing and how we're doing personally throughout the week. So I see Shelly is here from Arizona. Hi, Shelly. How are you doing? I think we have some new viewers on here as well today, so I want to welcome you guys. I see Oscar here, Oscar Cortez, Brian's Jersey Garden. I'm assuming you're watching from New Jersey. Piano Master is here every week. Williamina has been here before. I don't think I've seen you on here for a while, so welcome back. Rita Gibson, Renato Luna, what's snow? That's a good positive comment. I like that. Rita, snow is a 4-letter word. I talked about Shelly from Arizona. Welcome again, Shelly. And Rita Gibson, yes, we are safe from the fires. They have pretty much repopulated the areas that were evacuated. My daughter actually had to evacuate. She was in one of the mandatory evacuation zones, but she was able to return a couple hours later after the evacuation started and was just fine. And Irene's at the gym watching. So thank you guys so much for all of your well wishes for our garden and for our safety during the fires. Let's jump in here. I want to talk about the first thing that I'm working on here and focusing on is really fighting the overwhelming feeling of, oh my goodness, I'm so overwhelmed, I have to replant. So I don't know if you guys remember a few months ago, or maybe back last summer or last spring, I posted a video on garden overwhelm. And tell me if you guys can relate. Do you ever go out in your garden and just see all the things that have to be done and feel overwhelmed, like there is absolutely no way you're going to get it all accomplished, and to the point where maybe you don't even start? Maybe you're so overwhelmed and so like, I just don't even know what to do, that you just kind of quit. Okay, so that's the feeling that I'm really fighting now, is just focusing, and the way I'm fighting it is by focusing on one thing at a time. I actually had a conversation with Jerry, and I don't know if he's in the chat today, He's at work, so I don't know if he's able to join us, but actually had a conversation with him this morning, and he said, you just have got to take it like you do everything else, one thing at a time, garden bed by garden bed. So I pulled out, I'm gonna kind of raise up the camera a little bit. You guys might remember all these garden beds were full. There were the red profusion zinnias just hanging over the garden beds. It looked absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that was kind of tough, but I'm just looking at it garden bed by garden bed. It brings on new opportunities. Sometimes when things die, it's really hard at first, but then you have the chance to plant something new that you haven't been able to plant for a while because your garden beds have been full. And Cliff here, I see that you're posting. I will say that it helps to have an off season. Cliff has a month of cleanup and then the holidays, and in January, start dreaming again. So yeah, absolutely. If you live in a climate where you get snow, you have that opportunity to have an off season. I don't always have that here in California because we are fortunate enough to be able to plant year round. So I do like to try and keep my garden beds full for not only growing vegetables that we can eat, but also to be able to share with you guys how to do different things, how to plant things, and how to grow your own vegetables as well. So sometimes I do feel that pressure, have to be honest, to have my garden beds looking perfect, having them perfectly full, and be able to have plenty of content to share with you all on Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube. So, let's just take that pressure off. And I want to bring you guys along for the replanting process. And maybe some of you are going through that as well, feeling overwhelmed and maybe replanting your gardens and would like to join me. And definitely, if you're in the cold winter, you might want to stay warm with us here in California over the winter months. Got plenty of sunshine to go around, and we'll share that with you, and hopefully it'll give you a lift during the cold months. So the first thing I'm focusing on is definitely staying positive and trying to focus on taking one thing at a time. So share with me in the chat if you guys can relate, and if you have any tips for me also on avoiding that overwhelming feeling of there's no way I'm gonna get it all done. Okay, so I see Mary is chatting it up here. It's 57 degrees right now, and that is pretty chilly, at least for me, Southern California girl here, but it's probably feeling really like a really nice fall day there. And Patricia is, her comment is, yes, start with one thing and then the rest will follow. That is so true, and that's actually something that Jerry shared with me. I said, I don't really have a plan quite yet in place. And he said, you know what? You're gonna get some ideas, start with one thing, and then you're gonna get excited and have all kinds of other ideas, and a plan will fall into place. So taking it one step at a time is definitely helpful. Okay, Joanne Sherwood. Hi, Joanne. How are you doing? Watching from the UK. Thank you so much for joining in today. Watching your post, and no matter where you are in the world, there are positives and negatives to face. We who watch your channel know that you will turn this around. Thank you so much, Joanne. I really appreciate the encouragement, and I do like to stay positive. So sometimes I have my moment, but then we'll turn it around just into something that will be positive for everyone to be able to share in. Okay, Bruce in Las Vegas, wind and heat now, cool, hot, no cool. So hopefully you mean that cool weather is coming. Las Vegas gets so hot. Wintertime is probably a really good time to garden there. Okay, let's see, anything else in the chat here? Sharon has a great suggestion. I found that it helps me to make a list of what needs to be done, and then I prioritize the list and check it off as I go. Every check is an accomplishment. That is so true. I like making my list too, except sometimes I forget to look at them. But it definitely does help you to go back and just kind of, so you don't have it all jumbled around in your mind, you're able to check things off the list and feel really good about what you've accomplished. Okay, let's see if there's any other tips here. Okay, Game Nerd Mom, definitely overwhelmed. I need to put up a fence for my crops that need to overwinter to protect them from critters. Ugh, so much to do. Take it one fence post at a time. Okay, I hear you there. There's always gonna be a ton to do. So definitely helps you to just look at what's right in front of you. Maybe kind of give yourself a vision, give yourself a plan, but then just take it one step at a time and then feel good about what you got done for that day. Okay, so let me move into, the other thing I was gonna mention here under the overwhelm thing is to keep it all in perspective. I mean, look, if you look at everything going on around us, we had fires the next town over, and there are people who lost their homes. So in the grand scheme of things, the garden is not really important. I mean, it's definitely important, but it's not that important. So definitely things can be replanted, things can be regrown, but it's not like a big, huge tragedy like losing your home or having an illness in the family or losing a loved one or something like that. It's something we can all share in together and work at together, but just to keep it all in perspective, we're not in a big, huge hurry here. We can take our time and do things as we're able. So keep it all in perspective. Okay, so second thing here that I am focusing on, and this is kind of just a process here. A part of the process is just taking out things that are dead, taking out the old and bringing in the new. So I was thinking about that this morning, and doesn't that kind of apply to our lives as well? I mean, not only to the garden, but the way I was kind of thinking things through this morning is there's a lot of life's lessons that we can learn from the garden. So not only kind of getting things out of our life that we don't want in our life anymore in order to grow and become a better person, but we can also kind of equate that to the garden, is pulling out the old plants. And as I was looking through the garden yesterday, I was really battling with myself. Okay, should I leave this zucchini plant in? It was beautiful a week ago. I really enjoyed that zucchini. I'm kind of attached to it, as crazy as that sounds. But then just looking at the picture as a whole, am I gonna have enough time left to even harvest zucchini? The weather's getting colder. Is it worth it to have this big space taken up behind me by a plant that might or might not make it? Or should I just cut my losses and move on and start over with something new and fresh? And once I decided that, it was actually made it a little bit easier to take out the old, bring in the new, leave the plants that I think I'm gonna be able to get some production out of still, but cut my losses and move on. So once I made that decision, it actually made the clean out a lot easier. I just started yanking things out, and it actually felt pretty good. So what I decided to do was pull everything out on these garden beds, and then just leave all the leaves that blew off all the trees, just kind of spread them out over the garden beds and leave them there, because honestly, that's one less thing I have to do. I love mulching with leaves, and that way I'm not carting around leaves all over the garden. So just trying to keep it simple at the same time. So just really starting simple, starting with the basics, pulling out the old and refreshing, and bringing on the new. So one of the positives is I actually got this big, huge bin right here, chock full of leaves that we collected just from the lawn, probably one of these and then a whole nother one. So I'm always trying to collect leaves, so I'm one up on that. Okay, I see we got some super chats here, so thank you so much. We've got a couple of them. Let me take a look and see. I saw one from Heather. I'm so sorry, Heather. I saw one from Heather go by. Christy, if you could help me maybe find that. Was that a $2.99? Oh, here we go. Heather, thank you so much. $1 super chat. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Really appreciate your support and appreciate your super chat. Thank you so much. And another one from Max for $4.99. Max, thank you. Guys, it's just so encouraging to see that kind of support. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that and taking the time to super chat. Camera guy and I really, really appreciate it. Okay, let's see here. The wind, oh, I love this. The wind gave you a gift, leaves, from Rita. Absolutely, Rita. It's great to look on the positive side of things and to look at all the gifts that were given to us because of the wind, and not just the fact that the garden got damaged. So wonderful. Okay, Corey's Garden says, excellent philosophy, Kim. So yeah, I hope a lot of you guys, I'm learning and growing along with you guys. So I want to encourage you to learn and grow along with me. So if any of this encourages you, then that's one more reason why I want to share the process here of replanting. So question here from Rainbee's Plant and Germinating. Are your tomatoes doing good? Okay, I did pull out a couple small tomato plants. There's a few at the top I haven't quite gotten to yet, but I'll probably go ahead and pull those out too and just kind of start fresh. Now I did start, the ones at the top there are ones that have been in all summer. I did start some new ones maybe a month or so ago. And I just am seeing here my camera. Sorry about this, guys. My camera just got all cloudy here. All right, I think that's a little better. I did start some new ones about a month ago that actually held up pretty well to the storm. So we'll see how they do, and hopefully those will be able to sustain themselves over the winter time. But I'm definitely going to plant some more Tiny Tims, start them inside, and maybe move them in and out during the day when the nights get cold. Okay, Brandon had a super chat earlier. Yeah, I think I saw that. Thank you, Brandon. I think I saw that before the live stream started, so I appreciate that. I think that was a 99-cent super chat. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you being here today and sharing with us that your garden actually is needing some replanting too after the wind. Okay. Jed, still picking some tumbling toms in England. That's exciting. I know you guys get a lot of cool weather in England, so it's always exciting to be picking those tomatoes, even in the cooler weather. Sally, how are you doing today, Sally? Great to have you on here. And Piano Master, can you do a video on whiteflies, ways to get rid of them and what they do? They are all over my yard, everywhere. Wow, Piano Master. We actually are not having any problem with whiteflies right now. We usually have a big problem in the spring when it rains a lot. So I don't know what the weather's like in your area, but once we do have a whitefly problem, I will do a video on that. I haven't really had to spray too much for them, and I'm not sure, maybe someone can tell me on here if neem oil will do the trick with the whiteflies. So let me know if you've had any experience dealing with that. What I do want to do is do some more with beneficial insects over the next like 6 months or so. So you can stay tuned on for videos on that. Okay, first thing I'm focusing on is combating or fighting that feeling of overwhelm. Second thing is I'm pulling out the old and focusing on the new, not only in my own life, but also in the garden. Okay. Third thing I'm going to focus on, and this has to do with the gardening, is the soil. It's all about the soil. If you're at the point where you're replanting some things or even growing something inside, if you're in the wintertime, really focus on your soil. So the soil behind me here, it's been grown in all summer long, so it really does need some replenishing. Now, if you're heading into wintertime, a cold winter time, and you're not going to be replanting right now, I would totally recommend, like I'm doing back here, covering your garden bed with leaves. A lot of you, the winds are starting to blow like they were here. You're getting a lot of leaves around the neighborhood. You can pile those leaves on top of your garden bed. And if your garden beds are empty during the winter time, the snow, the rain will help break down those leaves, bring in the worms over the winter, and really help replenish your soil. So that's what I'm going to focus on behind me here, is replenishing through leaves. I'm going to be adding some compost as I plant, and I'm also going to be adding some worm casting. So really going to be working on these garden beds. A lot of times what I do in the winter is I'm slowly pulling out my warm weather vegetables here in California and slowly replanting with cool weather crops. So I don't usually have everything empty all at once. So now that I do have it empty, I do have the chance to work things into the garden bed that I wouldn't normally be able to replenish the entire garden bed with. So that's another opportunity, is I have the chance to really focus on my soil and replenish the soil. So again, trying to focus on the positive and, not the negative. So any tips for replenishing your garden soil over the winter time? I would love to hear about it. If that's something you're focusing on, please let me know here in the chat. And I see Pat Sella has a great suggestion. Thank you, Pat Sella, for Piano Master, about using neem oil and a little Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap in the spray. Well, great idea. I like that. Use cold pressed neem, spray the underside of the leaves. Whiteflies show up here in the fall. Okay, Pat Sella, thank you so much for that suggestion. That's one thing I really love about our community here, is a lot of people are interacting in the chat, offering suggestions. There's plenty that I don't know about or may not have experience with that you all out there have. So that's a great suggestion about the neem oil. The peppermint Dr. Bronner soap, it's a natural soap, so that would mix very well, or help the neem oil kind of to disperse through the water that you're adding it to. So great suggestion. Okay, let's see here. Yes, Patsella, great tip. Once it gets cold, or if it freezes, the whiteflies will pretty much leave your garden. Okay, let's see here. And that's true for a lot of bugs. And that's one thing, when you live in an area that doesn't get frost, that's one thing that can be a challenge is you don't get that hard frost or that even that light frost to kill off the bugs. So I saw, actually, I meant to mention too, Christy just posted the Fall Garden series, but I also did run a sale this weekend, even though we didn't do like a how-to video that I had planned on. So I still went ahead and ran the sale so that you guys can get your fall seeds or your winter seeds started at a discount. And I want to mention that real quick here. It's a 30% off sale, and you can get that over on my website, CallieKimGardenHome.com, with the code CallieKim. And it does just run through today only. So there's still a lot of gardening you can do even in the cold weather. You can garden indoors by growing lettuce and microgreens. You can even plant little tiny tomatoes under grow lights, or you might be able to now start with your cool weather gardening if you're in a southern climate. So I've got seed collections, everything over there to help you get started. So head on over to my website and take a look. Okay. Comment here from Margie. Thank you. I started my garden back in July, got hooked when I did my search in YouTube. Oh, thank you. Callie Kim popped up. Really appreciate everything. Thanks, camera guy, Callie Kim, and everything sunflowers and more. Margie, that is just such an encouragement to us to keep on posting content. I'm so glad that you found us. I'm so glad you're here, that you're watching, you're learning, and of course you're growing your own vegetables and are really enjoying the process. It's so rewarding and so much fun when you're able to pick something from your garden and eat it and then share it with the people around you. So glad you're here. Thank you so much for sharing. And I do want to thank Everything Sunflowers and More for moderating. She's here every week. An hour before the live stream starts. She is a master gardener, and a lot of you might have met her a couple of weeks ago on our live stream, and just a great person, a very dear friend, and always willing to answer a question or lend a helping hand or give a positive, encouraging comment. So I really appreciate, Christy, your help here every single week. Okay, let's see. What is a safe grow light from Sophie? Sophie, you definitely want to go over to YouTube or here on YouTube, watch my 3 easy grow light setups video. That will tell you everything you need to know for grow lights inside. They're not as intimidating as you might think. Once you dig in, there's some really easy setups that you can easily and very inexpensively pick up to grow plants inside. So check that out. All the links you'll need will be in the video description as far as what products to purchase. And Mary, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining us today. And let's head in now to the 4th thing I'm focusing on in the replanting process here in the garden is what to plant. So if you're replanting your garden, and I'm heeding my own advice here when I'm replanting my garden, what you want to think about is the time of year that you're planting in. Now, right now, we're heading into winter time here, at least in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, you might be heading into springtime. But here in the northern hemisphere, the weather's getting cooler. A lot of you are obviously experiencing snow and cold weather. Here in my garden, it's a perfect time to plant cool weather vegetables. So I'm not going to be focusing on planting tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, all the things I would normally grow in the summertime. I'm going to really keep things simple and work with the season, work with the temperature, not against it, to ensure that I have the best chance of success for growing vegetables throughout my garden. So we're going to be planting some cool weather vegetables. The other thing I also want to keep in mind, and that you'll also want to consider, is the sunlight requirements for the vegetables that you're planting. So the hill behind me here is pretty much shaded most of the day during the winter time. So I'm not going to be planting vegetables that need full-on sun like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. Those really need a lot of sun. Even though they're cool weather vegetables, they're not going to work on the hill behind me. So I'm really going to be looking for some vegetables that will only need a couple hours of sunlight a day. Now, as opposed to the area right in front of me here, let me see if I can flip my camera around. Okay. So the area in front of me, I'm definitely going to need to be doing some cleanup here. We didn't really get to that yesterday. That gets a lot more sun. I'd say maybe 4 to 5 hours of sunlight a day. It's still not a full-on sunny garden in the wintertime. So I'll plant some vegetables there that have higher sun requirements. So you definitely want to look around your garden and consider that, because in the fall and the winter months, your garden is going to get much less sunlight. than it does in the summer. It also depends on, like, our house pretty much shades our garden most of the winter time, so things change in the winter. So consider that whenever you're replanting or regrowing, and make the adjustment as far as the varieties to plant. So I'm going to plant things behind me that will grow in a few hours of sun, things in front of me that will grow in 4 to 5 hours of sun a day. So we'll be looking around for some really good varieties. We'll be planting a lot from my own seed shop, but also looking around for some other good varieties to plant that will be fun and interesting and new. So that's always a positive aspect too, is to plant new varieties that I haven't planted before. So I'm really excited about it. Okay, Piano Master's camera guy not here this week. Okay, I think he's having a really busy day at work. So a lot of times he'll join us on his lunch hour, but maybe he wasn't able to catch a lunch hour today, or things came up at work that he had to deal with. So thanks a lot. I'll pass on to him that you asked about him and that you missed him. Okay, let me just check and see if there was anything else I wanted to mention. Oh, the other thing that's a good thing to plant in the wintertime, and a lot of you may or may not do this. I bet you though, if Cliff is on here, he does this in the winter, is plant cover crops. So I don't know, I may plant some cover crops behind me here too, but basically a cover crop is something that is grown to keep the soil covered and to really add nutrients into the soil. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can plant things like clover. You can even plant things like peas and beans, which really help fix nitrogen and help other plants around them have nitrogen, or gives other plants around them nitrogen, so they can grow the nice leafy greens that we all like to eat. So I will also post a video, link to a video that I did on cover crops last year, so that if you want to plant cover crops in your garden as a way to rebuild your soil over the winter, you can know exactly what to do on that. Okay, Tony, thanks for all your sales on seeds. I jumped into spring seeds to be prepared for spring gardening. Okay, that's great. You can definitely stock up now when I'm having the 30% off sales, to really stock up either for Christmas gifts or for the spring gardening season. So one thing I wanted to show you guys here too that actually gave me a lift this morning. I planted a tray of seeds last week as my fall backups, and I didn't know the wind was coming and going to destroy a lot of my garden. And one thing that kind of gave me a lift here, these are all from my fall garden seed collection, is you see those guys? Little seedlings coming up. So that was pretty cool. I actually didn't have a lot of backups going in the house because I'd already planted a lot of my fall garden outside. So these will be ready to plant outside in a month or so, and we'll also be planting seeds. So there's always new life springing out of things that are damaged or destroyed in the weather. So if you look for it, you can always find something positive. And the other thing is, here on my windowsill this morning were some little microgreens seed sprouting. So I think I planted these maybe a week or so ago. So I think they're arugula microgreens. I just snipped some microgreens and put them into some scrambled eggs over the weekend, and here we have some new ones coming up. So it always gives you a little bit of lift if you have something growing on your windowsill. You can grab the microgreen seed collection. Don't you guys love this? I know it's still a few weeks from Halloween, but you know what? It makes me smile. It's on my windowsill, and I know it would make you smile too. So grab yourself some of these cute little containers at Target. I think they're at Target right now. Or grab a teacup out of your cabinet and get some microgreens planted too. It's just a lot of fun. Okay, so let me head into the chat. We've talked about the 4 things I'm focusing on in replanting the garden here. Fighting being overwhelmed, focusing on pulling out the old and bringing in the new, focusing on the soil and really replenishing the soil, and then looking at what good varieties to plant, what's going to work for your garden as far as the sunlight goes and as far as the weather goes. So I want to hear from you guys. If you're replanting, if any of these things are helpful for you, let me know. If you can relate to any of them, let me know. And if you're replanting or just growing indoors for the winter, I'd love to hear from you too. Okay, Angela just started her microgreens collection and putting it into small containers. Okay, that is so much fun. Microgreens are fun because you can harvest them within like 5 to 7 days. So you're getting that immediate satisfaction of growing something and then popping it right into your food there. So that's always fun. Okay, let's see what other comments we have. Christy's posting some of the points in the chat here, some of the tips. Let's see here. Luz, hi Luz, great to see you here. I'm growing my fall crops in containers. Should I put in at least one pea plant per container to help fix nitrogen? I know the broccoli and cauliflower need it. You know what, Luz, that's really an individual decision. If you want to try that, go for it. More power to you. It probably depends on your container size and how much space you have. Broccoli and cauliflower, can grow into pretty large plants. So as an option to planting a pea plant in the container, what you could do is just, every couple of weeks, make sure that your broccoli, as they're beginning to grow anyway, when they need that good leafy growth at the beginning of their life, make sure that you give them a good nitrogen fertilizer like the Good Dirt plant food or some fish fertilizer at the beginning so that they have that nice green leafy growth. And that might help them get off to a good start. And then after they're growing and start to develop the flowers and the broccoli heads, you can give them a more mild fertilizer like the worm tea or something like that that will really help sustain them and help them produce throughout the growing season. Okay, Cliff, I see. Thank you so much, Cliff, is making some great comments here about types of cover crops to plant. He's talking about mustard greens, things like that. So I know in the past I've planted some clover. I've planted peas and beans for cover crops. And anything else out there that you guys have planted for cover crops, please make comments in the chat so people can see those. And you don't always have to have a special cover crop seed. A lot of times you can just look in your own seed collections and anything that's a legume, like a bean or a pea, something of that sort, will fix nitrogen in the air, and then that will really help the soil be more productive. And you can just kind of let them grow over the winter time. And then as the springtime comes, what you do is you do something called chop and drop, where you're going to chop the cover crops off at the base about a month before you plant your spring garden, and then kind of let it decay in the soil, and then it'll really add some good organic matter to the soil and help get your garden off to a good start in the spring, and you'll be that much further ahead. Okay, here. Sharon, I'm growing microgreens soon with the lettuces indoors. Wonderful. And waiting until February to start the rest for next season. Have to hibernate for the winter. Okay, Sharon, that's great to hear. Sometimes, yes, we do need a break for the winter time. A lot of you get super hard frosts over the winter and can't grow outside. So I really want to encourage you to get something growing indoors. And it's going to give you that lift to see it, something growing on your windowsill. Something green from the garden, something fresh to eat. I saw someone else made a little comment. I'm sorry, I don't know, I don't remember who it was, about growing basil on your windowsill. So if you still have basil growing in your garden, you can snip off one of the stalks, one of the stems, root it in water, and then plant it after a couple of weeks. Once it's developed some good roots, you can plant it in a little container and then put it on your windowsill. And this has been growing on my windowsill for maybe a month or so without a grow light, without even direct sunlight, and it's doing absolutely beautifully. And this is one I rooted from my outdoor basil. So if you still have basil in your garden, I would really encourage you to do that before it gets too cold. Okay, question here from Julie. Hi, Julie. Do you have a video on how to freeze your veggies? I haven't done one for a while. I think I might have some that I did several years back. If you want to go and look under my playlist called, I think it's called Preserving Your Harvest, or you can just maybe type in the word freeze and some of my videos from the past might pull up. But basically what I do is I freeze most of my vegetables whole. My tomatoes, I just throw in a bag and pop them in the freezer. The same thing with the peppers. I don't usually tend to blanch them because I feel like that's just one extra step. And basically when you freeze your vegetables and then pull them out, don't expect to have a nice crisp vegetable. Those are vegetables that you can use in cooking, like in sauces, in stews, stir fries, that type of thing. They're going to be definitely mushy and not nice and crisp, but it's a great way to preserve it and then pull it out later on when you have time to process a whole bunch of them, like make spaghetti sauce or whatever. Okay, let's see here. Oh, wow, Piano Master, that's so cool. I'm literally pruning basil to root when you mentioned this. Oh, that's so cool. Don't you love it when that timing works out? Okay, yes, I love that. Okay, everything sunflowers. That's a challenge from Callie Cam. Wonderful. Thank you. How many people can we get growing through the winter? So absolutely, Christy, thank you so much. I want to challenge you guys. if you're not able to grow outside, or even if you are, I want to challenge you to grow something indoors, whether it's microgreens, lettuce, whether it's herbs. Here's another little thing of lettuce I just started a couple years ago, a couple weeks ago actually. And here we go, guys. I think it was maybe one week ago, and here we go, already seedlings popping up. I'm telling you guys, you are gonna love seeing that in the wintertime, I promise you. When it's too cold outside, you'll love this growing inside. And I also want to challenge you and encourage you and invite you to join us as we replant behind us. Join us through the winter time. I know a lot of winters people will say, oh, it's so cold and dreary, but watching your channel with the California sunshine, you're still growing, you're still planting, you're still encouraging us to grow something. It always gives me a lift. So if that's you in the wintertime, if you kind of get that seasonal affective disorder, join us here. Plenty of sunshine here in California to go around, and I would love to have you join us as we replant the garden. So that would just be so much fun. Okay, so let me know if you're going to be growing inside with me here. Caro Loon. Hi, Caro. I grow loads of veggies in my homemade tunnel during winter. In fact, I avoid brassicas during summer because of the pests. Okay, that's great. I love to hear that you're growing outside even in the winter time, and that you have some kind of a tunnel or a hoop house to protect your vegetables from the cold weather. So that's one great way you can also extend your growing season. And I know a lot of people, I know there's a gardener, Nikki Jabor. She's on Instagram. She's written several books. She lives in Canada. So look her up on Facebook and on Instagram. She grows all winter long, just like Caro does, in low polytunnels. I think she uses even a glass like door or something to cover her tunnels, and is able to grow a ton of greens in the wintertime. So I totally encourage you to do that as well. Okay, Nisha, accept the challenge. Growing strawberry, curry leaves, and passion fruit, wheatgrass, basil, money plant, all indoors. Wonderful, Nisha. She's growing up in Northern California, so I'm great to hear that you've accepted the challenge to grow inside. Rita, oh wow, there's a lizard on the fence over here. I just saw it. Accepting the challenge, been planning and planting. That's great. The Saga SA Gardener, except in South Texas. That's wonderful. The growing indoors. Angela, that sounds good. I will grow basil and shall start microgreens. Wonderful. Angela, I'm glad to hear that. Shelley, propagate and plant a lot of basil, which is awesome to do that in the wintertime. So I'm glad to hear a lot of you guys are accepting the challenge. We'll go for it, and we'll keep each other encouraged and posted here on our live streams and also on Instagram. And if you guys don't follow me, make sure you follow me over on Instagram, because I post daily updates, pretty much what I'm doing. Post a lot on my stories, what I'm doing out in the garden on a daily basis. And I would love, if you're growing something, to tag me over there so I can encourage you and comment on it as well. Piano Master, accepting the challenge, growing spinach and broccoli indoors. Wow, you really are accepting the challenge, because that can be a challenge to grow that indoors. So wonderful. Okay, Cecil, okay. Follow you, hope that means you're accepting the challenge as well. Wonderful. Okay, guys, I'm gonna look for one more question to answer. And whoops, and then we're gonna sign off for the day. This has been very encouraging to me, and I hope it has been for you too. Question from Angela, is your Instagram name the same as your YouTube name? You can find me on Instagram at CallieKim29. If you type in Callie Kim, you'll find me. Also, make sure you follow Camera Guy on Instagram, because he posts a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, usually some really cool 1-minute videos as well, and a lot of behind the scenes from the movie studio where he works. So you definitely want to check him out too. And his Instagram is Callie Camera Guy. Okay, one more garden question. Does growing in water count? Yes, it does, Catherine. I don't care how you grow inside during the winter, as long as you're growing something that you can eat, or even something that you can't eat. It's just fun to see that green growing inside, but hopefully you grow something you can eat too. Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining today. Thank you for all of your encouragement. After the live stream, as soon as I head inside, I am going to post a video just sharing a little bit about how I felt yesterday after pulling out some of the garden plants. So you want to head over and check that out. Want to invite you to join us as we replant. And I really appreciate all your encouragement and positivity. You give me a lift today. Hopefully you've gotten a lift by being here as well. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.